Right, so that's it tacked, and as far as I know the measurements are exact to the drawing. So now the process goes of welding it together. Now these need to be fully penetrated welds, so what I'm going to be doing is thinking about each one I'm going to do. I'm going to grind in a groove into that so it's almost just penetrating through with the grinder. I'm going to set the machine just right, and then I'll probably do something like little oval movements, so I'm melting in the root and also building back, melting in the root, building back until I've got a uniform bead, and hopefully it won't distort too much. But to stop it from distorting too much, I'm going to clamp all sorts of bracing and stuff to it, but it's all level. This is the thing with welding, you get it all set right to start with, and then you add molten metal into there, and the metal shrinks and pulls everything out of alignment. So the best way to counteract it is either make things overcompensated for the movement, so when you weld it, it comes back, or just brace it as best you can and hope for the best. Now, should this go completely pear-shaped, there are ways of correcting it using heat. So I can, if it's completely bananaed, you can heat it on the outside curve and it will shrink back and pull everything back again. That takes a little bit of skill and a bit of practice to do that. I've done it before, so I'm not too scared of doing it, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, so I've braced it by clamping to the big section of steel, and I've also put a bar across there and tacked that on, and hopefully that will stop anything from moving and contracting this way and also that way, and therefore everything should remain fairly square. And well, we'll see how it goes. But anyway, to prepare the welds, I need to grind a little hollow section into the face along the seam, and to do that I'm going to obviously use a normal angle grinder, but I need the edging of the disc to be rounded, and so to prepare this new disc, which is completely square, I'll just run it in directly 90 degrees into a piece of steel, and that will naturally take those corners off. I might just start on one edge, go to the other edge, and then go straight in, and that will create a perfect curve ready for preparing the steel. Okay, so a bit like an artist sharpening a rubber before doing any kind of significant painting, or drawing should I say, you can see I've made that edge now nice and round. Can you see that? And this is going to cause the nice hollow that I need there. Bear with. Okay, so I've created that hollow now. It's very close to the bottom. I've turned down the amps of the welder, well, the volts of the welder down ever so slightly, because I know I'm going to burn through a bit and get a bit of keyholing, but I don't want too much. As long as it's getting most of the material penetrated, I'm happy. So let's give it a weld anyway. Again, 60 degrees at a 45-degree angle, and I'm possibly going to be doing back and forwards motions. And so that's worked out pretty well, I think. Okay, so that's that face done. So there was a little bit of underfill here where it completely melted through, so I spotted that and just did a little bit again, trying to make sure not too much heat was going in. But after that it seemed to run really smoothly, and on the ends it was a little bit difficult to see. I think I need a new screen put on my welding mask, well, a new protector anyway. So my finishes aren't great, they're overlapping, but I'm planning on grinding all that back anyway, making it all look nice and neat and flush. Okay, so I'm going to treat this one as a normal teeth fillet. I'm going to grind those tacks off first, and then I'm going to do 45 degrees and come across, and I might do little cursive ease just to make sure all those ends tie in nicely. There we go, I'm pretty pleased with that. So you can see how those toe of the weld, I think you call it, is really blended in nicely with the parent metal. It's kind of nicely flat profiled. I think any hotter than that and you definitely would be getting some serious undercut. Don't think I've got undercut. I think that's pretty good. And so, other faces now. Okay, so this is the last weld on the main structure, if you like. Now there's a little bit of a gap here, so I'm just going to take it easy. Probably would double back and round, doing little circles rather than cursive ease. But I'm pretty happy with that as well. That's nice. So now the scary part, if you like, will be checking to see if it's still flat, taking that bracing off and see if it moves. And if it does, then we'll have to deal with it. If not, then woohoo. So I've finished now the Y piece, and I've decided not to put everything together as one, but to actually site weld all the pieces together on the site, only because transporting the weight and getting it into position is going to be a lot easier if it's light. And I actually did some calculations and it won't actually fit to go in with all the pieces on it. I'm going to have to lean things in and weld things on and then shimmy it into position, and then it will be permanently fixed in place. So what I'm doing now is I'm making the steps modular and easy to weld on site. So you can see I've welded these 25s round in, and if I give you a quick demonstration, that should just slot into there, and everything's at the right height, the right angle, and all I'll need to do is zip some welds around the perimeter, and that will be permanently set in. And then on this side, I don't know if you can see that, but I'll just whip a bead weld around that, and that will be lovely. So to do that, I created these basically. I've welded one end, which means I can hammer them in. You can see there's a little bit of a spacer. I used a bit of the MIG wire because it's 1 mil,
and that's exactly what was needed. It was just 1 mil either side to make sure that rod was directly in the center. If I give you a demonstration how I get one of those in. So here's one of the finished steps, and here's my insert. So all I do is I've tack welded it there, and it slightly tapers, but it also has enough play that it will compress. It will compress this wire here. So if I push that in as far as it'll go, and the rest just have to give it a welly. And then the last bit, I just check with the measurer, so just a couple of more taps. One more tap, generous one. Half tap. And that's bang on now. So all I do now is you can see that the angle iron I've put in is set so it goes below the flush line, and that means that I've got a cavity I can weld, and the weld isn't going to be in the way. It's going to have plenty of strength, and I don't need to grind anything back. So I'll weld that in now, and that to me is going to be completely straight and in the center.
Good morning and welcome to the day of the install of the staircase that I've been building. So here is the finished piece. You might have noticed that it's now galvanised. So in the end I did decide to have it galvanised, and so that these holes here came in very handy. So it's galvanised from the inside out. All the molten zinc went through all the holes, nooks and crannies, and this is now fully protected. But it's mainly to give it a like a shiny metal finish. That was the main thing. So here's the platform that's got to be welded onto the top. Those are the steps. All of these steps should slot in nicely into these holes, and hopefully all the glass, which is already being cut, should fit also. What I'm going to do with the glass is I've got these boards here. I'm going to go and find the glass that's in another room. I'm basically going to lay the glass on top of these boards, find out where all the fixings are, and then mark those fixings out and drill holes. And then what I would do is every time I weld a step onto the frame, I'll also bolt it to that piece of wood, and that should keep everything exactly in line for when the glass goes on. So we're going to get the steel work in first and then the glass on top. So this is the point of which it's all going to get fixed on. I pull this up. Right, so let me explain what I've done here. When drilling the base of the staircase, I also attached this sheet of metal to the bottom and drilled those holes out at exactly the same places. I used this to then use as a template for drilling the holes into the wall, and then when I chemically bonded these struts in there, I had them bolted to this in an attempt to keep everything aligned. Now everything isn't quite aligned, some things still do that, so in hindsight I would probably use either thicker piece of metal or a thick piece of wood to do the same thing, just to keep those bolts and the drill bits when drilling into this absolutely straight. And to mark exactly where this goes, I used the plasterboard as a datum. So all my measurements came from the walls this way, from the floor this way, and then I cut this as accurately as I could, and then I used a square to then gauge where the lines were on the brickwork, and hopefully everything will be pretty much exact. The idea is to have some sort of tolerance for minor adjustments, but you won't have much tolerance at all to do that if you don't make everything exact to start with. So to get everything in position, this has all got to come this way and then in and then up. And as you can imagine, it's very heavy. So I've got a 1.5 ton lift. I'm going to attach that onto this strap here. That's an RSJ going across that. There's a decent pad in the wall and everything there onto that steel beam that I put in a while ago. It's actually welded at the top there, but I've given it a strap as well, and there are screws and everything around that, and I've strapped it to it to make it sure it's as secure as possible for when picking up this weight and moving it about. So I'm probably not going to do much filming whilst this is all going on, just because one, I want to get it done, two, it's a bit unprofessional doing filming, especially if other people are watching and all that kind of thing, and I need to be able to just concentrate and not have to worry about filming. But once I've done this part, I'll basically take you around and show you what's going on, and I might be able to do little tiny snippets, but I won't be doing any talking in between. So hopefully this will become a success and not a disaster, but this is real life, so anything could happen.